Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Secretary. Mr. Hassel, good to see you again. In your testimony, you had brought up the governor's proposal as far as SP forgiveness, and you had stated that it increases exemption for special tax forgiveness by 40% to help struggling families. And that was accomplished by increasing the allowance for claimants from $6,500 per person to $8,700 per person. Is that correct?
Yes.
But at the same time, there's also an allowance for dependents at $9,500
Yes.
per dependent, and that's not changed at all.
Right.
And I was just curious, if the thought process is to help struggling families, and we're going to dedicate $83.4 million to this, why is the focus on increasing allowance for claimants? Why wouldn't be the focus on increasing the allowance for dependents? Was the goal here, you had mentioned that 422,000 taxpayers would benefit from this. Was the goal here to capture more taxpayers, or was the goal here to capture more people in poverty, the people that need the dollars most?
To capture more people in poverty.
Okay, and if that's the case, did we give any consideration at all to maybe using a different method, let's say percentage of the federal EITC program?
Well, we were looking at a percentage of the federal poverty level.
Yeah.
That was what we were looking at.
And my point is this, I think a lot of us, especially those of us that prepare taxes, know that some individuals can get special tax forgiveness in Pennsylvania and be very wealthy individuals.
Generally, people who have income that is not taken into account here, such as pension income.
Right. Right. So, and that's why I was wondering if we ever given any consideration at all just to switching to an EIT, like a percentage of the federal EITC. I think that would hopefully capture more of the struggling families, as you said.
Well, we can take a look at that. This is the proposal that we had been working on that was part of the conversation that was being conducted around the 15-16 budget, and
Yeah, I understand.
that's part of why we were looking at this.
And to bounce around just quickly, you also had mentioned the promotional play, tax in a promotional play as slots play at 8%, and I believe the numbers I had seen were close to $20 million for this year and $51 million for 16-17.
Yes.
Is that a tax solely on promotional plays, or does it go to other promotions that the casinos offer, let's say like food or lodging or anything like that?
No, the proposal for the tax is only on promotional plays. There was in this past year a Supreme Court decision that allowed the casinos to deduct the cost of many of those promotional items from their tax liability. Yes. Not food, though. You mentioned food, and food is one of the items that they were not allowed to deduct. There's I think there might be one other item as well.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Transportation, lodging.
Lodging.
Yeah. And just for my edification, the $19.9 million this year and the $50.9 million last year, how did you come to that number? Did you just take what they're presently giving in promotional plays and multiply it by the 8%, or did we put any factor in for a reduction in the amount of promotions they're offering because of the taxation?
It is based on the amount of promotional play that's reported by the Gaming Control Board.
Okay, so I think it's safe to assume that those numbers aren't going to be attainable, because I believe what I've heard the casinos say, they would change their business models and offer less promotional play because of it. Would you agree, or no comment?
It's significantly lower than the tax rate that they're currently paying on other wagers, so
I understand.
they know more about what they might do.
And lastly, and understand, I am very appreciative of Mr. Hassel's involvement. Anytime I have a question, he's always very easy to get a hold of, and we've had some long discussions about various things. One of those issues was a UE, the unreimbursed employee business expense, which we had several meetings about with Chairman Adolph as well. And recently, you had sent a letter to Chairman Adolph with the resolution to what we had been discussing. I believe it was dated January 6th. And in it, you had stated that in order to get the UE done, unreimbursed employee business deduction, you would either need a letter from the employer, which we all told you no employer is going to give you the letter, or secondly, a copy of your employee handbook, their expense reimbursement policy, or without any of those, a signed affidavit. And I guess my question is, are we requiring that with the tax returns now, or is it only after they're audited? Just preparers are asking.
We're
So what-
asking people to send that.
That's what I'm saying. Is revenue asking people to submit these things with the returns?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, and I guess my confusion then is why the affidavit? Because isn't signing the return pretty much the same thing as an affidavit?
It clarifies that people understand that it's their responsibility to make sure that they are following these rules, and they don't appear to understand that signing their tax return is tantamount to saying that they understand that these business expenses must be required by their employer in order for them to be able to deduct them.
Okay, and last question, and just for the benefit of preparers, so revenue is asking that anybody who's claiming any type of unreimbursed employee business expense to attach something additional to return, or it's going to be audited, or disallowed, let's say.
We're not going to examine each and every single return, but if we examine the return, yes, we will expect that information to be there.
Okay, thank you.